Und willkommen zurück zu Let's Play Shinrai Broken Beyond Despair. Beim letzten Mal haben wir die Befragung beendet. That concluded the questioning. Und haben einige interessante Sachen erfahren. Zum Beispiel, dass Mika eine ganze Zeit lang vor den anderen rausgelaufen ist und es eine Zeit gibt, in der sie kein Alibi hat und einfach nur behauptet, die ganze Zeit vom Breaker Room gestanden zu haben. Was aber so auch nicht durch irgendeine andere Aussage gedeckt wird, beziehungsweise was keiner widerlegen kann, wo keiner das bestätigen kann, weil sie die ganze Zeit alleine war. Ja. Und wir haben über das Thema Tod gesprochen beim letzten Mal. While the others sat down at one of the dinner tables again, Taiko and I moved over to the sliding doors once more, where we could talk in private. Together we went through everything we learned just now, making sure neither of us had missed any important details before finally evaluating the newly gathered information. We certainly had learned quite a few interesting things. Unfortunately, even though we now had a much better understanding of what had occurred during the first blackout, there were still many pieces missing in order to fully complete the puzzle. Ja, weil das, was beim zweiten Blackout passiert ist, immer noch keinen Sinn ergibt. Especially in regards to the biggest question of all, namely what had happened to Momoko. It was hardly to say anything with certainty at this point, but at least one thing was for sure. While suicide still couldn't be ruled out, the possibility of murder had increased by a huge degree, thanks to what we had heard from Runa. In fact, it looked as though my theory would have very well worked. Dass Runa aus Eifersucht? Huh? In case of a murder, there was really only one way I could see how it might have played out. And not only did this theory explain how someone could have killed Momoko, it also solved the riddle of how she could have known about the second floor guest room being unlocked. The idea had been sparked by Barrachan's talk about possession. Ich muss einmal gerade speichern. Ich habe Angst, dass wir uns hier jetzt gerade für ein Ending entscheiden müssen. She had proposed that a ghost had possessed Momoko and that it had led her to the second floor guest room. Well, what if that was exactly what had happened? We just had to see this ghost, this phantom, as the murderer whose identity was still unknown. So, what if someone had told Momoko about the unlocked guest room? What if this someone had somehow caused her to head there during the blackout? And what if they had then followed her and committed the crime? Considering what Runa had told us, it could have worked. Ja, und Hiro könnte es gewesen sein, weil er hatte die Möglichkeit, die Tür da oben aufzuschließen und danach mit Momoko darüber zu reden. Aber die haben sich ja gestritten, oder war das ein Fake-Streit? And there were only 4 people who came into question as possible suspects. Everyone who had left the dining hall after Barrachan and me during the first blackout. Runa, Carmen, Mika und Hiro. And Hiro. Okay. Yes, only those 4 would have been able to do it. It was hard to believe that someone like Mika was capable of murder, and there was no visible motive for her to even commit such a deed. But she had definitely had the opportunity to carry it out. Ja. Vielleicht wollte sie einfach nur Raiko erschrecken mit diesem gesamten Mord. After all, we only had her word that she had followed us directly to the basement and waited in front of the breaker room the whole time. What if she had run to the second floor instead and waited there for Momoko to... Once the deed was done, she had made it look as though Momoko had hanged herself, and then used the darkness to sneak past Runa and the others before going to the basement in order to startle us. I guess it all depended on the question whether or not the time Barrett-chan and I had needed to turn the power back on would have sufficed to accomplish all that. As for the other three, they had left the dining hall together to chase Momoko. According to Runa, however, they hadn't stuck together the whole time. Apparently Hiro and Carmen had run ahead to the 3rd floor, which had resulted in Runa searching the 2nd one all by herself. Also hatte sie genug Zeit. Well, what if Hiro and Carmen had split up upon reaching the 2nd floor? What if one of them had stayed there while the other had continued upstairs? Before Runa had managed to catch up, the one remaining on the 2nd floor had then headed to the guest room with Momoko waiting inside. Runa had told us that she had moved down the entire 2nd floor hallway in search of Momoko calling her name. Ja, aber Runa hätte ja auch den Mord begehen können in der Zeit. That would have made it rather easy to determine her position. Once she had passed the room, whoever had been inside and just committed the crime could have then snuck out and rushed over to the stairs. Then, when the lights went back on and Runa turned around, it looked as though they had just returned from the 3rd floor. Or Runa could have simply lied to us. While Hiro and Kamen actually had searched the 3rd floor, she could have entered the guest room herself, killed Momoko, and left just in time to pretend to find the corpse alongside the others. Genau. Anyway, all 4 of them would have certainly had the opportunity to kill Momoko. So, was it really possible? Could one of them have been a murderer? Ja, possible ist es. Chapter 4. Yeah, conflagration. As soon as Taiko and I were done evaluating the information we had gathered, we once again joined the others at the dinner table closest to the entrance. When I took my place next to Barrett-chan, she immediately grabbed my arm to cuddle it, leaned against my shoulder and released an exhausted yawn. By now it was well past midnight, so it was only natural for her to feel tired. Es ist gerade 0:22 Uhr, also auch schon etwas nach Mitternacht und ich bin noch nicht müde. Ich sehe nicht, was daran natürlich ist, jetzt müde zu sein. Especially after the recent events. All that running around the constant surprise and chaos. It seemed to have taken quite a toll on her, just like on everyone else. I felt beat myself and would have loved to retreat into a warm, comfortable bed, but I wouldn't have been able to sleep right now anyway. Not after what had happened here. And I guess the same applied to the others as well. When I looked around, all I could see were gloomy, miserable faces. No matter how often we reminded ourselves of the cold facts, it was still hard to accept them. To think that one of our classmates had died under mysterious circumstances, and we were now trapped inside this resort, in the middle of the mountains with no means to call for help. It truly was a nightmare. And as long as this nightmare wasn't over and we hadn't figured out what exactly was going on here, none of us could afford to the rest. No matter how tired and exhausted we were. Also ich finde am verdächtigsten momentan sogar Runa. Weil sie gehörte zu denjenigen, die die Planung mitgemacht hatten, also sie kannte den gesamten Ablauf, sie kannte den gesamten Gebäudeplan vorab. Sie hat sich das Kostüm sie hat mit dem Kostüm zusammen gemacht mit Momoko und konnte da auch schon planen, sie zu erhängen mit dem Kostüm. Sie war alleine im 2. Stock, hat sie sogar zugegeben, dass sie da alleine war. Finde ich schon, also Runa finde ich schon, und sie hat halt das Motiv, dass sie halt verknallt war in Hiro. So, now that you've heard everything we have to say, any new ideas? Well, to be honest, a lot of questions still remain. It's hard to tell how everything that happened here tonight might be related. So, are you telling me you don't even have the slightest clues as to what's going on? I have some theories, but it's all just, it's still all just wild speculations for the most part. Well, just wildly speculate then. I can understand if you don't want to say anything false, but we have to start somewhere. If we all put our heads together, I'm sure we'll figure it out. At the very least, I can tell you that we won't get anywhere if you keep your thoughts to yourself. Ja, aber wir wollen auch nicht, dass der Mörder merkt, dass wir schon auf der Spur sind, dass es kein Selbstmord war. Weil sonst ist er bestimmt extra vorsichtig und versucht sich nicht zu verplappern. Und wir wollen ja noch ausnutzen, dass er sich eventuell doch verplappert, oder? I could very well understand why Taiko was hesitant about sharing his thoughts. Unter anderem, weil zwei der Verdächtigen hier im Raum sind gerade. If he just told everyone about our murder theory, things were bound to get even more out of hand. And why take that risk when there still wasn't definite proof of it? Then again, Rie was quite right as well. We couldn't sit here forever just thinking. Ich würde ganz gerne die anderen vorher nochmal befragen. Of course, we could have just waited for the power to miraculous go back on again. Or for our parents to get worried enough to come here and just get us, but... Come on, say something! Okay, fine. What about you, Raiko-chan? I bet you figured something out, right? Aha, du willst auch nicht reden, ne? I didn't know what to say either. I looked at Taiko, but he just shook his head, so I remained silent. Are you guys for real? Was you going around questioning all of us just a big waste of time? It's the work of a ghost after all, isn't it? That's the only way everything can be explained. Momoko really got possessed, didn't she? Nonsense, Akadori-san. Mori-san clearly committed suicide. Guck mal, darauf besteht sie so. Sie haut immer wieder darauf ein, dass das ein Selbstmord war. I don't even understand what all this is about. Granted, there might be things we do not understand as of yet, but I am certain they can all be properly explained. Ja, zum Beispiel damit, dass du sie umgebracht hast und da oben hingelockt hast. Once the police carry out an investigation, they will be able to piece everything together. So I do not see why we should even attempt to do that job. Ja, damit du noch genug Zeit hast zu verschwinden, ne? What is more important right now is to find a way to even contact the police as well as our families. That is what we should be focusing on, not mystery solving. Genau, das sollten wir jetzt nicht machen, damit du dann Spuren noch verwischen kannst. Verwechseln, genau. We are just teenagers after all, not detectives. Ja, ihr seid alle Teenager, keine Detektive. Außer einer, das ist ein Mörder. Was ist das bitte für eine Aussage? Auch Teenager können Mörder oder Detektive sein. Cool. Mika agrees with Huna. Thinking is overrated. Wenn du das glaubst, das glaube ich dir. We need to take action. Yeah, but what action? Thinking is all we can do right now, considering there's no friggin' way we can get into the breaker room. Then we need to find a way. It can't be called a breaker room for nothing. Let's just go and break it open. Cool. Als ob wir das nicht schon versucht hätten. Taiko already tried that and failed. It's a solid metal door after all. If all of us work together, we can easily destroy it. I think you're underestimating the sturdiness of 4-inch thick metal, as well as overestimating the durability of our bones. Well, Tamashi-san is right to some extent. There has to be a way for us to get into the breaker room. If all we can do right now is think, we might as well try to think about how to achieve that. Uh-huh. While the others continued the discussion as to what we were supposed to do next, Taiko and I exchanged silent gazes. There was certainly some truth to what Runa had said. The most important thing right now was to find a way to get into the breaker room somehow. In order to call for help, we needed to turn the power back on, so maybe it really was a better idea to simply focus on that. Then again, now that the possibility of a murder had arisen, I couldn't simply blend it out. I had to know what had happened here. And not just to quench my own curiosity. If Momoko had really been murdered, then maybe the rest of us were in danger too. Anywho, first things first. Hiro and Carmen still aren't back yet. So it's about time we check up on them again. I'm feeling uneasy about leaving them up there alone for so long. Besides, I'd still like to hear their versions of what happened during the blackout and compare them to Runas. Ja, und vielleicht auch die... Achso, Mika ist alleine schon losgegangen, bevor irgendjemand sie noch sehen konnte, ne? And why would you need to do that? Compare my version of it to those of Shiratake-san and Aiga-san? Ja, weil ihr euch aufgeteilt habt. What? Oh, well, to be quite honest with you, Kikai-san, I believe I know the reason why you refused to share your thoughts with us. Huh? You think that Mori-san was murdered, correct? Wait, what? Is that true? It cannot have been a curse, and to think it was an accident is equally silly. However, for a while now, you seemed rather dissatisfied with the idea of Mori-san committing suicide. So that only leaves one other possibility, does it not? Ja, ist auch scheiße, dass sie es rausgefunden hat, ne? Wait. Warum musstest du dich auch verplappern? Du hättest ja sagen können, dass du von den anderen nochmal hören möchtest, was die gemacht haben, während die von Runa getrennt waren. Das hätte ja schon gereicht. Du musst ja nicht mal sagen, dass dass du abgleichen möchtest, ob Runa die Wahrheit sagt. There must be a misunderstanding here. Nein, you can't honestly believe Momoko was murdered. Right, Taiko? Like Runa said, it's at least a possibility. Und vor allem ist der Perversling Kotoba immer noch nirgendwo. Everyone was left utterly speechless at those words. For a few moments, Rie, Bara-chan and Mika stared at Taiko in disbelief, waiting for him to say something. Anything. However, their wish that he would deny being serious about such a ludicrous claim wasn't granted. Instead, the grim expression on his face only reinforced how serious he was. Now that the cat was out of the bag, there was no more reason to try and hide anything. How can you even say something like that? Let alone think it. You know what that means, don't you? The murderer would have to be one of us. I'm fully aware of that. That's why I didn't want to bring it up. You gotta be kidding. Tell me you are. I mean, you can't be serious. Do you really think one of us killed her? It wasn't Mika. Definitely wasn't Mika. There ain't no way any of us could be a murderer. Especially not Mika. Natürlich. Calm down. Nothing's set in stone yet. Like I said, it's only a possibility. I can't believe what I'm hearing. That you would even consider the possibility. Consider that one of us would. That's insane. Totally insane. You've lost your mind. How could you believe one of us could be a murderer? Wie könnt ihr glauben, dass die von einem Geist besessen war? Don't you trust us? Don't you trust your friends? Hey now, I never said that. Of course I don't want to think any of us is a murderer. Believe me, I don't like this idea either. But there are a couple of things pointing at it. Like what? Do you even need to ask? You know as well as do I that there are few things that make a suicide seem rather odd, to say the least. But would murder really make that much more sense? Yeah. Wouldn't that create a whole lot of problems as well? Like, how would the murderer have even done it? That's why I said it's only a possibility. Just as much as a suicide still is. Is it really just a possibility? Or are you already convinced it was one of us? Ja, ich bin mir sogar ziemlich sicher, dass es einer von 5 sein muss. Es könnten Kotoba sein. Ja, also Kotoba kann nicht den ersten Mord begangen haben. Aber es könnten... aber der könnte involviert sein und halt jetzt den zweiten Stromausfall verursacht haben. Aber ansonsten könnten es Runa sein und es könnte Mika sein und es könnten die beiden sein, die noch oben sind, also Kamen und Hiro. Auch wenn ich nicht weiß, was Kamen für ein Motiv hätte, denn das war die beste Freundin von Momoko. Taiko didn't respond. Judging from Runa's look, she was well aware of the fact that she was one of the suspects. I guess Taiko's rather straightforward way of questioning her hadn't really helped in keeping his suspicion hidden. You think I did it, isn't that so, Kikai-san? That is why you want to compare my version of what happened during the blackout to those of Shiratake-san and Aiga-san. Naja, die beiden sind halt auch verdächtig. To see if I was lying. Wait, what? You can't honestly believe that Runa, of all people, would be a murderer. If this was a murder, and that's a big if, it could have only been one of those who left the dining hall after Raiko-chan and Nobara-chan during the first blackout. In other words, the only possible suspects would be Mika, Hiro, Kamen, and Runa. No way! There's no way Runa would ever do something like that. Or any of the others, for that matter. They wouldn't even have a reason to. Doch, außer Kamen und Mika sehe ich jetzt keinen, der da keinen... vor allem Runa und Hiro hatten da Gründe für. But I do. Or at the very least, that is what you are thinking, Kikai-san, are you not? You honestly made that quite clear when asking me about Shiratake-san and Mori-san. Wait, you don't think... That's bullshit! Runa doesn't care for Hiro anymore. Well, you're the one who told me otherwise. Well, I was mistaken then. And even if I wasn't, so... what? Runa would never kill anyone for such a petty reason. Or for any reason at all. Anyways, why are we even still talking about this? Momoko obviously committed suicide. I'm 100% sure of that now. Ich weiß, dass dieses Spiel mehrere Endings hat. Und nur eins von diesen Endings ist das True Ending, wenn man den wahren Mörder rausfindet. Das heißt, man kann auch quasi den Falschen beschuldigen. Und ein anderes Ending kriegen. Okay, sie hat... Genau, jetzt bist du hundertprozentig sicher. Warum bist du hundertprozentig sicher, dass sie Selbstmord begangen hat? Raiko-chan, tell that idiot he's wrong. There's no way in hell this was murder, right? Naja, Everyone was suddenly staring at me, expecting an answer. But what was I supposed to say? Of course, I would have rather believed it to be a suicide myself, however. I couldn't avert my eyes from the facts. Ich speichere gerade mal nicht, dass ich jetzt hier mir was verbauen kann, indem ich was Falsches angebe. Just like Taiko had said, there were a few things pointing towards murder. Muss ich jetzt antworten? I had to think this through once again. I could understand that Rie didn't like the idea of her best friend being a suspect. I mean, I would have probably reacted very much the same if Bara-chan had been suspected. But it was true that in case of murder, It could have only been Kamen, Hiro, Runa, or Mika. Everyone else had a water weight ability for the alibi for the duration of the first blackout. So only one of those 4 would have had the opportunity to kill Momoko. Maybe I was looking at this from the wrong angle. Instead of asking who had the opportunity to do it, maybe I should have been asking who fulfilled the requirements to do it. If we were to assume this to be a murder, there were a few things the culprit must have been able to do and have known about in advance in order to pull it off. So, what were the reasons again why I was given considering the possibility of murder? First of all, there was Momoko's weird behavior, running straight to the 2nd floor and into the only unlocked guest room. Yeah. Not only would Momoko have needed to know about that room being unlocked in case of a suicide, the same applied to the culprit in case of a murder. Moreover, in my theory, if my theory was correct and they had somehow caused her to head there during the blackout, they must have also known about the power outage occurring in the first place. Then there was Hiro's horror story. It couldn't be mere coincidence that we had heard a story about a ghost driving overly jealous girlfriends to commit suicide by hanging themselves, and soon after we discovered Momoko who hanged herself. The culprit must have used this story as an inspiration for their crime. Although I guess it must not necessarily have been planned in advance. After killing Momoko in that guest room and seeing the rope around her waist, it could have been a spontaneous idea. In any event, with that, we already had 4 requirements for the culprit. They were one of those who had left the dining hall during the first blackout. They must have known in advance about the power outage occurring tonight, was Hiro schon mal ausschließen würde. They must have known about the 2nd floor guest room being unlocked or even have gotten a chance to unlock it themselves. Was eigentlich nur Hiro ist jetzt. Ich weiß nicht. Wir wissen, mit dem Power Outage kann sein, dass Carmen das weitererzählt hat. Das heißt, es kann auch immer noch jeder sein. Aber Hiro hatte die Möglichkeit, das aufzuschließen oder davon sicher zu gehen, dass der offen ist. Das trifft aber auch auf Runa zu, weil Runa dabei war, als sie das kontrolliert haben, ob alle abgeschlossen sind. Und da könnte sie ja bei der Kontrolle gesagt haben, ja, ist abgeschlossen. Aber es war offen. They must have been present when Hiro had told us his horror story. Das trifft natürlich wieder auf alle außer Rie zu. But that wasn't all. There was actually one more requirement. One of the biggest reasons why I had started considering the possibility of a murder. The phone in the reception and the 2nd power outage. No one would go as far as to cut the cord of a phone for a mere prank. So, for what other reason could anyone have done it then? Only to prevent us from calling an ambulance and the police, of course. And for a murderer, it made a lot of sense to do such a thing, didn't it? Maybe they needed some more time to get themselves a proper alibi, or to get rid of incriminating evidence und Zeugen. Curses, why was I only realizing this now? Kodoba ist vielleicht ein Zeuge gewesen, der beseitigt werden musste. Of course, taking all of the above into account, especially that last part, there was one single person among us who was more suspicious than anyone else. What? Hiro. Weil Hiro war alleine in der Rezeption, so wie die das erzählt hatten. Der war alleine in der Rezeption und er war auch eine ganze Zeit alleine in dem Zimmer, in dem Momoko umgebracht wurde. Jetzt nach dem Mord. Das heißt, er kann da irgendwelche Spuren verwischen. Ich muss mich jetzt also tatsächlich entscheiden. Gerade jetzt würde ich gerne nochmal speichern. Ich nehme aber, Raiko macht überhaupt keinen Sinn. Hiro. Hiro. He was the one who had come up with that horror story, so that alone made him quite suspicious. And judging by the argument that had resulted from it, his relationship with Momoko must have been rather strained, which could be seen as a possible motive. Moreover, he had been the one barking orders around after Momoko's discovery, sending Barachan and me away, getting Mika to tend to Runa, and then entering the guest room to take care of Momoko himself. Carmen might have entered with him, but he had later kicked her out to be alone for a while. But what if he had done so for a very different reason? No, before jumping to conclusions, I had to take this one step at a time. First of all, did he even fulfill all the other requirements? If so, there must have been a way for him to have somehow known about Rie's plans and the occurrence of the first blackout in advance. Wir wissen... questioning results. Wir wissen, dass Carmen involved war. Und die könnte das weitererzählt haben. Of course! Rie had told us that Carmen had been involved in the party preparations. Considering how close she and Momoko have been, it was possible that she might have told her about it. And in the same manner, Momoko could have told Hiro. So a possibility for him to have known about tonight's events in advance certainly existed. What about the second floor guest room, however? If he was the culprit, he should have known about it being unlocked or even gotten a chance to unlock it himself. Ja, war auf dem Klo mit den Schlüsseln in der Hand. Was there a way for him to have accomplished that somehow? Resort keys. Steht das hier irgendwo drin? Genau, sie hat es Hiro gegeben. Da. Right! Hiro had borrowed the keys from Rie to unlock the first floor restrooms. Mal gucken, man kann das Ganze wahrscheinlich auch noch durchführen mit anderen Verdächtigen. Und andere Endings erzielen dadurch. Bin mal gespannt, wo das jetzt hinführt. Ob das überhaupt die richtige Schlussfolgerung ist. But who was to say that was the only thing he had unlocked? I guess he could have cut the phone cord around that time as well, or during the blackout. If I recall correctly, Runa had said that Hiro had checked the reception, while she and Carmen had checked the restrooms in their search for Momoko. Genau. Either way, if he was the murderer, he might have needed to cut that cord in order to buy himself some time to get rid of incriminating evidence. Of course, this was all just speculation based on the information we had gathered so far. I still lacked any decisive evidence to actually prove that Hiro had murdered Momoko. He just appeared to be the most likely suspect right now. However, if I was actually right with any of this, then leaving him and Carmen alone up there had been a very big mistake. Yeah. Surprised by the sudden noise of the sliding doors getting opened, I raised my head. I had been so deep in thought that I had completely blocked out everything around me. When I looked over to the entrance, I could see Runa standing there holding a candle in her hand and ready to leave. Where you going, Runa? I will be heading for the restrooms. I'm not feeling so well and I cannot listen to this nonsense any longer. I think I'll need a moment for myself, so if you'll excuse me... Runa, wait. I'm gonna go after her. Oh no, you won't. We can't let her go by herself. I'll be going after her. You'd only make things worse. But... don't piss me off even more, Taiko. I'll go calm her down and bring her back. You guys wait here. Taiko opened his mouth again to object, but Rie's deadly glare was enough to make him swallow his words and stay quiet. I was actually hesitant about saying anything to her myself now, let alone mention any of my recent thoughts about Hiro. However, Someone had to get to the second floor ASAP. So when Rie spun around in order to leave, I quickly shot up to my feet. Wait. Let me come along, please. Huh? Raiko-chan? Someone needs to check up on Hiro and Carmen, so... Well, I guess that's true, but... If Raiko-chan's going, I'm coming too! Barra-chan clung to my arm again and didn't look like she was willing to let go of it anytime soon. I was kind of surprised that she actually wanted to go back up there, to where we had found Momoko. But I guess she really felt more comfortable as long as she was with me. Hey, hold on a sec. We shouldn't all leave now. But I want to stay with her. Rie didn't seem happy about all this. For a moment she looked as though she was going to say something to stop us, but in the end she didn't. She must have realized that she couldn't bring up an excuse like it's too dangerous, at least not without indirectly admitting that there might have been some truth to Taiko's words. After all, danger would have only truly existed if one of us was indeed a murderer. Alright, I guess I can't stop you. Ja, und die beiden bleiben hier. You two will stay here, though. I don't Runa wants to see you right now. And to be honest, I don't want to either. So yeah, please keep an eye out on that guy for me, Mika. Achoo! Leave it to Mika? No Taikos will be leaving unharmed. Ja, toll. A moment of silence passed as Rie and Taiko quietly exchanged gazes. Dabei wollte sie die ganze Zeit doch einfach nur Taiko rumkriegen und jetzt streiten die sich. He seemed very dissatisfied with her decision, but there was nothing he could do about it. She had made herself quite clear. And although her expression had softened a little and she seemed a bit apologetic, he knew that any further objections would have only resulted in more arguing. So without saying another word, he sat down at the dinner table again next to Mika. It was rather sad to see how everything had turned out. This certainly wasn't how Rie had envisioned her party to be, or any of us for that matter. Unfortunately, if my suspicions would turn out to be accurate, it was only going to get worse from here on out. A new diary entry has been added. Once the three of us had stepped through the sliding doors, we immediately glanced to our left down the hallway. There was no trace of Runa, however, which could only mean that she had already reached the restrooms. Without much hesitation, we began heading towards them as well, Rie and the candle she had brought with her taking the lead. Können wir nicht auch eine Kerze mitnehmen? I can't believe that guy, to suggest such a ridiculous thing. That one of us could be a murderer. That Runa would even have a motive. What a jerk. Yeah, there ain't no way that could be true, right? Of course not. That's just impossible. You think so too, right? Raiko-chan? Even though the choice of her words was meant to show that she was sure of it, the tone of her voice and the fact that she was asking me for confirmation indicated the opposite. I didn't really want to, but I figured it was probably for the best to answer this one truthfully. While I'd rather do not believe it myself, there is no denying that the possibility does exist. What are you saying? So you two think... But that's like totally cray-cray. No, she's right. She's absolutely right. Just like Taiko is. Ja, sie wollte es nicht wahrhaben, ne? For a moment, Rie fell silent. Deep inside, she must have known all along. She just hadn't been able to admit it. I know he didn't say those things to be mean or anything, or because he's convinced they are true. He said them because they are a possibility. Taiko's always had a strong sense of justice. That's one of the things I like about him. He'd never cover for anyone who would do something bad. Not even if it was his best friend. He really only wants the truth to come to light. That might make him seem like a jerk at times, but I can't really blame him for that. I know he cares about everyone as much as I do. And even though he might present those possibilities, that doesn't mean he wants to believe them to be true. He's just being objective. Something I could never be. Not in a situation like this. I'd rather believe a ghost to be behind this than any of my friends. Maybe I'm just too naive. I'm just scared he might be right. I have no idea what I'd do if he is. I'd rather not even think about it. But I guess just closing your eyes like that might not be the best solution either. I've always done that. Maybe it's a little childish, but vehemently denying the truth is a lot easier than accepting it. And this here, right here is something that would be especially hard for me to accept. Was wäre, wenn wir hier jetzt jemand... Wahrscheinlich würde dieser Dialog ein bisschen anders laufen. Wenn wir jetzt in unserem Kopf eben bei der Schlussfolgerung Runa als Schuldigen dargestellt hätten, ne? So, all I can do is act like he's nuts and yell at him. Even though I don't really want to do that either. Wow, she seemed to feel really bad about the way she had reacted to Taiko. I guess this just went to prove how much she liked him. And it's not like I couldn't understand her. I could understand her quite well, in fact. The truth could be an ugly thing. But the act of deluding oneself on purpose like that was just as ugly. Dang, I'm not even sure why I'm ranting on like this. Just forget everything I said. Anyways, let's head upstairs, shall we? You ain't gonna check on Runa? Nah, she's fine. She just needs some time to cool off. Ja, aber so würden wir dann nicht mal erfahren, ob sie überhaupt da ist oder in der Zwischenzeit was anderes macht. We're gonna grab her on our way back. Okay, if you say so. And just like that, Rie marched past the restrooms and directly towards the staircase. Well, I guess that was fine with me. I didn't want to look like I was in a hurry and have her ask me why. After what had happened in the dining hall and her monologue just now, I couldn't bring myself to tell her the real reason why I wanted to check on Hiro and Carmen. Still, the sooner we could arrive upstairs, the better. And I could only hope that my suspicions were going to turn out to be groundless. Du hast Angst, dass Hiro Carmen auch noch umbringt, weil sie eine Zeugin sein könnte, ne? X-Page for Rie's profile has been added. When we reached the second floor, the hallway stretching out before us was completely dark. Not a single shred of light was coming through the window at its other end. If it hadn't been for the candle Rie had brought with her, we wouldn't have been able to see a thing. Then again, even with the candle, we couldn't really see anything. Or anyone. The corridor was just as empty as it was silent. There was no sign of Hiro or Carmen. It could only mean that he must have let her into the guest room again, however. Dang, which one was it? I only remember it being somewhere in the middle of the corridor on the left side. Ja, mit dem Happy Halloween Poster dran. Was it the door with that weird Halloween sign on it? Oh, right. I totally forgot about that. That reminds me we still don't know what that's all about. We continued passing all the guest room doors until we arrived at the one with a piece of paper still attached to it. As Rie bathed in the flickering light of her candle, we couldn't help but just stand there in silence for a moment and stare at it. Happy Halloween! Happy Halloween. Just as Rie had said, it was still unclear who had put it there and for what reason. Auf jeden Fall war es nicht Rie, denn das ist richtig geschrieben. All I could say, All I could say was that it wouldn't have made sense for Momoko to do it right before hanging herself. I mean, who would ridicule their own death in such a way? If she had been murdered, however, I guess it could have been the work of her killer. But even then, why leave a piece of paper such as this on the door? Simply to mock us? In any case, it was certainly rather puzzling, but there was still time to figure this out later. For now, there was something more important to take care of first. Carmen? Hiro? You guys in there? We waited for a few seconds, but there was no response. Retried knocking at the door again, but still nothing. Finden wir jetzt entweder Carmens oder Hiros Leiche? Unsure of what to make of this, the three of us exchanged puzzled gazes. I suddenly had a really bad feeling about this. A little hesitant, Rie reached for the handle. She wrapped her fingers tightly around the metal and looked at Bara-chan and me for confirmation. We both gave her a nod and, with a gulp, she slowly pushed the door open. And none of us would have ever anticipated the scene that was awaiting for us behind it. Carmen? Uttering those words in an unstable voice, strained by disbelief and confusion, Rie came to an abrupt halt after barely setting a foot into the room. Just like Bara-chan and me, she was petrified by the sight lying in front of us. Vielleicht sind auch beide tot. The dim light of her candle wasn't strong enough to penetrate the thick layers of darkness veiling most of the room's interior, but nevertheless... Okay. On the other side of the room, we could clearly see someone kneeling on the floor. Mit einem Messer in der Hand. The face was masked by shadows, but the clothes were unmistakably Carmen's. She wasn't showing any kind of reaction towards us, however. Instead, she was staring straight down at the ground, holding one of her hands high above her head. Mit einem Messer in der Hand und da liegt jemand auf dem Boden. Carmen? What are you doing there? Again, no reply. It didn't seem like Carmen was paying us any attention at all. Just, what was going on here? Oder ist das überhaupt Carmen? Vielleicht ist es auch einfach Hiro, der Carmens Klamotten angezogen hat. And what in the world was she holding in her hand? I couldn't really make it out due to the lack of light. Also für mich sieht das auch nach einem Messer. But whatever it was, she suddenly let it swoosh down and rammed it into the floor, creating a wet, somewhat mushy sound upon impact. I had no idea what had just happened, but one thing was for sure. The floor was covered with the same tatami mats as the dining hall, so it couldn't have made that kind of noise. No, there was something else lying right beneath her. Wahrscheinlich Hiro, ne? After slowly rising to her feet, Carmen turned toward us. For a short moment, she simply stared into our direction, still not speaking a single word. Carmen, what the hell is going on here? Where's Hiro and what did you just... Carmen, wait! Before we had a chance to react, Carmen spun around towards the open window and jumped outside into the night. Carmen? What the hell? She had jumped out of the window. Das finde ich aber seltsam, weil Carmen hatte eigentlich nicht die Möglichkeit, also wenn Carmen der Mörder ist, weil die hatte ja eigentlich, das trifft ja auf die 4 Möglichkeiten, die sein müssen, nicht zu. Sie hatte ja eigentlich nicht die Möglichkeit zu wissen, dass der Raum offen war und sie hat auch keine Möglichkeit, den Raum zu öffnen. Weil als sie das geprüft haben, ob der Raum offen war, waren Runa und Rie alleine. Und die Schlüssel hatte nur Hiro. Was mir jetzt aber gerade in den Sinn gekommen ist, vielleicht war das gar nicht Carmen, vielleicht war das gerade Runa in Carmens Klamotten, um den Verdacht auf Carmen zu lenken. Weil wir haben ja nicht überprüft, ob Runa auch tatsächlich zu der Toilette gegangen ist. She had jumped out of the window from the second floor. Curses. There was no way she'd... Hey! That on the floor there! Isn't that... Huh? Ah! Letting out blood-curling stream, Rie stumbled backwards, almost dropping her candle as she fell right into Barachan's arms. When I looked at her, her face was overcome by pure terror. Bewildered, I turned my head back and aimed my gaze at the floor. It was so dark that I could hardly recognize anything, so I took a few more steps into the room to get a better look at whatever scared her that much. Also, die Leiche von Momoko hängt da nicht mehr. Die hatten sie ja abgehängt. Und ich habe auch keine zweite Leiche jetzt gesehen. Also ist das wie immer noch dieselbe, ist das die Leiche von Momoko, wo sie gerade reingestochen hat? Oder hat sie Hiro jetzt auch umgebracht? What my eyes spotted there on the floor, on the very spot where Carmen had been kneeling a moment ago. Hiro, okay, es war Hiro. Hiro. That was Hiro. He was lying there on his back, his face distorted by pain and agony into an ugly grimace. Eyes rolled into the back of his head, mouth wide open, giving off a soundless scream. His lips were painted with by the blood spilling across his tongue and running down his jaw. He was dead. There was absolutely no reason to think otherwise. The kitchen knife buried deep into his throat was all we needed to look at to be certain. My hand automatically shot up to cover my mouth, as I felt a thick lump forming inside my own throat, massive enough to almost make me choke. It was such a disgusting sight that no matter how much I wanted to, I just couldn't turn my eyes away. Almost like I was hypnotized, I kept staring at his lifeless body, at that grotesque wound surrounding the sharp blade. Ich habe manchmal Träume, wo ich träume, dass ich irgendwas nicht sehen will und mir deshalb die Augen zuhalte und meine Augen dann irgendwie trotzdem sehen, was passiert. Weil die dann plötzlich durch meine Hände und durch meine Augenlider durchgucken können. Das sind schlimme Träume. Watching how more and more of that disturbing red liquid kept erupting from it, soaking the collar of his shirt and dyeing it on the same color, there were no words to properly describe this gruesome scene, nor how I felt about it. So that was what Carmen had been doing. She had, right in front of our very eyes. Naja, Carmen. Thinking of that name alone helped me break the spell and avert my eyes. Sie hat nicht mit uns gesprochen. Vielleicht, weil es nicht Carmen war, sondern Runa im Kostüm von Carmen und man hätte sie sonst an der Stimme erkannt. Deswegen hat sie nichts gesagt. There was no time for this. I tried pulling myself together and bolted for the window. When I reached it, I quickly leaned outside and immediately spotted her. Carmen had safely managed to reach the ground. For a second I was stunned as how she had even managed to accomplish such a feat. But then I noticed the pipe to my left vertically stretching across the building's outer wall. There was a red rope tied to it, still swinging left and right. Below it, Carmen was standing, Looking up the window. Ist es dasselbe rote Seil, an dem Momoko vorher gehangen hatte? Looking up at the window. Right at me. I wanted to call her name, but before I even got the chance to do so, she suddenly dashed away. Well, if she could do it, so I could. Raiko-chan, the hell you doing? You can't be serious. That's insane. Don't. Barachan and Rie darted towards me, but it was too late. I had already climbed into the windowsill. Before they could stop me, I reached for the rope, grabbed it with both my hands, and jumped outside. Raiko, no! I swung around and hit my feet against the building to get a hold. When I looked down, I instantly regretted my decision. The distance to the ground was quite large, but there was no turning back now. Just as there was no time for hesitation. If I wanted to catch her, I had to hurry. Making tiny leaps, I hopped down to the resort, repeatedly whacking the soles of my shoes against it as the rope slid through my hands. They quickly began to burn from it, chafing across my palms. Wollte gerade sagen, ist es nicht unglaublich schmerzhaft, wenn so ein Seil da so an deinen Händen Reibung erzeugt? So, when I was almost on par with the first floor window, I simply let go, letting myself fall the last bit, right into the thicket below. Needless to say, it was a rather uncomfortable landing, but I didn't have the luxury of enjoying the sweet feeling of pain on my butt. I tried getting back to my feet ASAP. I heard Rie and Barachan yelling from above, but ignored them and focused on Carmen instead. I could see her in the distance, standing still and looking in my direction. I guess she was surprised I had actually decided to follow her like this. I mean, I was surprised myself. I had been insane enough to jump out of that window. But here I was. And when she realized that what that meant, she quickly turned around and continued running. Without wasting any time, I immediately gave chase. Carmen. Just why? Why had she done this? Why had she killed Hiro? Did this mean that my theory was correct and he had been the one to kill Momoko? Had Carmen figured it out herself and decided to take revenge on him? Subsequently becoming a murderer herself? Was that what happened? I guess it was a possibility. Oder sie hat Momoko umgebracht und Hiro war alleine in dem Zimmer und hat irgendwelche Spuren gefunden und deshalb musste er beseitigt werden. However, thinking about this now was pointless. If I could just catch her, I could hear the truth from her own mouth. When I saw her vanishing around the corner of the building, I stepped it up a notch, running as fast as my non-athletic body was capable of. Und ich finde, es ist auch immer noch dieses Mysterium, wo Kodoba jetzt hin ist. Der ist ja nicht wieder aufgetaucht seitdem, der ist einfach weg. Einfach weg. However, where did she... Once I had reached the corner myself, I instantly hit the brakes. She was gone. I couldn't see her anymore, nor could I hear her footsteps. All that was reaching my ears now was the restless cackling of the cicadas. I had lost her. She didn't have that much of a head start though, so she couldn't have really vanished into the dark distance ahead. But then, where could she have? My eyes instantly fell on the thick, gapeless rows of black trees surrounding the resort. That seemed to be the only possibility, but if she had actually escaped in the forest, trying to find her would be next to impossible. I strained my eyes and ears, trying to make out any signs revealing her location. Unfortunately, it was too dark to see anything, and any noises she might have made were deeply drowned among the relentless waves of insect cries. Curses, what to do now? Trying to get through the forest in this darkness was a surefire way to get lost. Ist das nicht etwa da, wo ihr am Anfang reingekommen seid? War da nicht irgendwie noch so ein Gebäude, so ein kleines? She must have known that herself. Then again, it was not like she had much of a choice. If she didn't want to be caught, returning to the resort was out of the question now. Left with not much of a choice myself, I decided to keep moving. It was possible that she had only wanted to vanish from my sight while continuing behind the front row of trees. If she safely wanted to escape from here without getting lost, her best bet was to take the stairwell at the main entrance, which led down to the parking area. Even though my stamina was already dwindling, I mobilized all my remaining energy and ran as fast as I could. I had never been much of an athlete, but I wasn't willing to give up just yet. I had to catch her, no matter what. Raiko-chan! Wer sagt denn das jetzt? I could hear Bara-chan's voice in the distance. Rie also seemed to be shouting my name. Soon I was able to see the light of her candle shimmering through the darkness. The two of them were already at the main entrance. Raiko-chan! There you are! The hell were you thinking? Once I reached them, I slowly came to a halt. My heartbeat and breathing speed had increased considerably. I was completely out of breath and needed a moment to catch it, but Bara-chan didn't give me much of a chance to. Instead, she only caused me even more breathing troubles by throwing her arms around my exhausted body and squeezing it like there was no tomorrow. Are you crazy? I was so friggin' scared. Don't ever do that again, you hear me? Seriously? Do you even know how dangerous that was? To think that you of all people... Well, what could I say? I was still surprised myself. I had simply acted on impulse. I didn't have the slightest clue what had been going through my head at that moment. But one thing I knew for certain. It wasn't too keen on jumping out of a second-floor window ever again. Okay, das wirst du nicht nochmal machen. Anyways, thank God you're okay. I mean, you are alright, right? You didn't hurt yourself, did ya? I'm fine. Sorry for making you worry. Anyway, did you see Carmen? Nope. So I guess that means you lost her? Yes, unfortunately. Was the entrance still locked when you got here? Of course. I just unlocked it myself, so there's no way she could have gotten inside here. I see. So, does that mean she escaped into the forest? But wouldn't that be a really bad idea? Yeah. Even in broad daylight, it's super easy to get lost. Besides, even if she makes it through, then what? The next city's far away, so she isn't going to get anywhere without a car. Unless she doesn't mind taking a very long walk. Ich glaube, es ist besser, als erwischt zu werden und wegen Mord im Gefängnis zu landen. Vielleicht. So, what are we gonna do now? We can't just let her get away. Well, doesn't look like we have much of a choice. Searching for her out here would be pointless. We're never gonna find her. So I'd suggest we head back inside. Neither Bara-chan nor Rie herself seemed too happy with this idea, but there really wasn't anything else we could do. And now that we knew who the culprit was and another person had lost their life, it was all the more important to find a way to call for help ASAP. Besides, I really wanted to check out the second-floor guest room again. There was something that was bothering me quite a bit. Ja, die Leiche von Momoko war nicht mehr da, ne? Once back inside, Rie made sure to lock the main entrance again before we quickly marched through the reception and entered the hallway. She slammed the door shut behind us and, just to be safe, locked it as well. Just when she was done... Hello? We turned our heads towards the direction the voice was coming from. It was accompanied by the sound of timid footsteps and squeaking wood. Someone was slowly descending the stairs. After exchanging puzzled gazes, the three of us gathered in front of the staircase. Dim candlelight was illuminating the walls at its top. It didn't take long for the person holding the candle to come into view. Just like us, she was wearing a rather confused expression on her face. Runa? Yeah. Miyamoto-san, Shinpuku-san, Akadori-san. What are you doing here? I could ask you the same thing. What were you doing upstairs? Aha. Könnte also tatsächlich sein, dass sie Carmens Klamotten getragen hat und gerade wieder oben durchgeklettert ist und deswegen von oben wieder runterkommt und sich gerade wieder umgezogen hat. I thought you went to the restrooms. Well, I heard a scream coming from the floor above and got worried, so I went to take a look, but no one was there. Did you hear anything? Or was it just my imagination? Actually, I was the one screaming. But wait a sec. If you went upstairs after hearing me scream, shouldn't we have run into each other? Indeed. Rie and Barrett-chan had immediately headed for the first floor after I had jumped out of the window. Ja, wahrscheinlich ist es so, wie ich es gerade gesagt habe, ne, dass Runa diejenige war, die gerade Carmens Klamotten angezogen hat. Und Hiro erstochen hat. Und jetzt ist sie durch den Weg, wo sie rausgegangen ist, auch wieder reingekommen. If Runa had moved up here after hearing Rie scream, they should have come across each other in the staircase. Well, I didn't head for the second floor right away. Don't forget, I was still inside the restrooms being occupied. Also, I wasn't sure at first if I hadn't simply imagined it. It was only when I heard some more noise coming from the staircase that I decided to go take a look. Huh. So that doesn't mean we just missed each other? It certainly sounded that way. So apparently right after Barrett-chan and Rie had gone into the reception and headed outside to look for me, Runa had left the restrooms to move up to the second floor. If that was true, they had perfectly missed each other. In any case, whatever happened up there that caused you to scream anyway, and where are Shiratake-san and Aika-san? Wait, you didn't see for yourself? Didn't you take a look into the guest room? Well, I tried knocking at the door, but didn't get a response. And since it's locked, I assume no one was there and decided to head back. Das ist verschlossen? What? What do you mean it's locked? Well, just what I said. The guest room where we found Mori-san is locked. Ich hab gerade... Weil wir haben ja die Leiche auch nicht gesehen von Momoko in diesem Zimmer. Deswegen habe ich gerade irgendwie das Gefühl, da war nicht nur ein Raum offen. Beziehungsweise irgendwer hat ja die Schlüssel scheinbar. Irgendjemand kann ja hier Türen aufschließen, wie er will. Warum auch immer. Und ich glaube, dass, wer auch immer das war, dieses Poster mit Happy Halloween einfach umgeklebt hat auf diesen anderen Raum. Well, just what I said, the guest room where we found Mori-san is locked. Are you telling me that wasn't your doing, Miyamoto-san? Rie didn't know what to reply. Just like Barrett-chan and I, she was utterly speechless. What the heck was going on here now? So Runa hadn't seen Hiro's corpse? Because the guest room was locked? How was that even possible? Miyamoto-san? Huh? Oh yeah, that's right. I totally forgot, but I did lock the room myself. Probably better no one enters until the police arrive, you know? As for me screaming, I just got startled by my own shadow is all. Hat sie die Tür da abgeschlossen, wo Momoko drin war? Und danach hat jemand das Plakat woanders hingehängt. Nee, Moment, das macht gar keinen Sinn. Oh boy. Rie really was the worst liar I'd ever met, also hat sie es nicht abgeschlossen. Runa gave her a suspicious look. She had obviously realized that Rie wasn't telling the truth, but apparently decided to not press the issue any further. Weil sie auch für verdächtig hält mittlerweile, ne? Anyways, would you please head back to the dining hall? I know Taiko pissed you off, but... Well, you know how he is. He just... Yes, I know. To be fair, I might have overreacted myself. And I guess arguing among each other is the last thing we should be doing in our current situation. We need to work together if we had to accomplish anything, so I was planning to head back and try to clear things up anyway. What about you, however? Also die Frage bleibt ja, wenn sie das war und sich als Carmen verkleidet hat, wo ist die echte Carmen? Vielleicht im Breaker Room, der ja zu ist? Vielleicht? And Shiratake-san and Aiga-san? It's a bit complicated. I'll explain everything once everyone's back in the dining hall. We are just gonna check one more thing real quick and then head back here as well. Back there as well. Alright. I'll let Kikai-san and Tamashi-san know. Thanks. Without speaking another word, Runa turned around and headed towards the dining hall. We waited until she reached the sliding doors, and once she had disappeared through them, Rie let out a deep sigh of relief. It didn't take long for that relief to turn into a mixture of guilt and grief, however. Why didn't you tell her the truth? I just couldn't bring myself to tell her about Hiro. She's gonna find out sooner or later anyway. I know that, but still. Clenching one hand into a fist and tightening the grip of the other around her candle, Rie internally cursed our situation. Telling the others about what we had witnessed upstairs wasn't going to be easy. But as Barra-chan had said, sooner or later, she had to. There was no way around it. She had seen the ugly truth with her own eyes. This time there was no deluding herself. Anyways, let's go upstairs. Guess it's time we take another look at that guest room. Barra-chan and I nodded in agreement, and with that the three of us began climbing the stairs once again. All we could do was hope that Runa had simply been mistaken somehow. Unfortunately, though, it was just as she has told us. Der Raum ist verschlossen, ne? What the heck? You gotta be kidding me! It's really locked? Yeah, it certainly was. No matter how violently Rie rattled the handle, the door wouldn't open. Speechlessly, we stood in front of it, staring at that disgusting piece of paper with the words Happy Halloween scribbled on it. Oder vielleicht hängt das jetzt einfach nur woanders und es ist nicht dieselbe Tür. Yes, I was sure of it now. It was only there to mock us. This is bullshit. The door was open. You two saw it. It was open before. And I swear I didn't lock it. Nobara can confirm that. Yes. When we saw you were unharmed after jumping out of that window, we immediately ran downstairs. And we definitely left the door open. But why is it locked then? Weil, in Anführungszeichen, Carmen durch das Fenster wieder reingekommen ist und es dann hinter sich verschlossen hat. Hell if I know. I presume it's not possible to lock it some other way. Like using a sliding bolt from the inside, for example. You know, similar to the breaker room window. No, all the doors here can only be locked with a key. There's no other way. Es sei denn, man stellt einen Stuhl da drunter. Und blockiert die Tür einfach nur. So, I really don't get what's happening here. A ghost? It can only be a ghost. Barra-chan, will you ever stop that? Well, how do you explain this then? Rie's the only one with them keys. Right, speaking of keys. Once again, Rie fetched her keys. Und wahrscheinlich passen die jetzt immer noch nicht, ne? Her hand was shaking as it hesitantly steered the blade toward the lock. I could almost feel the tension emanating from her body. Was it going to fit or... It worked. Okay, also nicht so wie beim Locker Room, ne? Ich würde aber sagen, wir sehen uns beim nächsten Mal an dieser Stelle hier wieder. Bis dann, Leute. Ciao.